My boss called me disposable. He said I was a placeholder until someone better came along. He told the entire leadership team that I was too stupid to notice I was being phased out. And he said all of this during a recorded Zoom meeting. He just forgot one thing. Every recorded meeting automatically saves to the company cloud, and I had access. I'd been working at Meridian Solutions for 6 years. 6 years of early mornings, late nights, weekends, and holidays. I started as a junior data analyst and worked my way up to senior systems coordinator. I managed a team of 8. I trained every new hire in our department. When the pandemic hit and half the company went remote, I was the one who kept our infrastructure running while everyone else figured out how to unmute themselves on video calls. My boss, Gerald Hutchins, came in about 2 years into my tenure. He was brought in as director of operations, and from day one, something about him rubbed me the wrong way. He had this smile, this politician smile that never quite reached his eyes. He'd shake your hand and compliment your work, but there was always this undercurrent of calculation, like he was measuring you, deciding your value. For the first few years, Gerald and I had what I'd call a professional relationship. He left me alone to do my job, I delivered results, and we both pretended to respect each other during team meetings. But things started to shift about 8 months ago. It began with small things. Gerald would schedule meetings during my lunch breaks. He'd CC my team on emails without including me. He started giving my projects to Marcus Chen, a guy who'd been hired 6 months prior with half my experience. When I asked Gerald about it, he'd wave his hand dismissively and say something about cross-training or development opportunities. Then came the performance review. I'd never received anything below exceeds expectations in my entire career at Meridian, not once. So when Gerald handed me a review marked meets expectations with notes about communication issues and resistance to change, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "I don't understand," I said, sitting across from him in his corner office. "My metrics are the highest on the team. Client satisfaction is up 12% since last quarter." Gerald leaned back in his leather chair, that politician's smile spreading across his face. "Numbers aren't everything, Daniel. Leadership is about perception, and lately the perception is that you're coasting." Coasting? I couldn't keep the disbelief out of my voice. "I've worked 60-hour weeks for the past 3 months. Like I said, perception. I left that meeting feeling like the ground had shifted beneath me. Something was wrong, something was very wrong, but I couldn't prove it. 3 weeks later, I found out about the leadership meeting. Our company had a practice of recording important Zoom meetings for documentation purposes, quarterly reviews, strategy sessions, anything involving major decisions. These recordings were stored on our company cloud server for compliance reasons. As senior systems coordinator, I had administrative access to the cloud infrastructure, not to snoop, just to manage storage allocation and troubleshoot technical issues. I was doing routine maintenance when I noticed a recording from a meeting I wasn't invited to. It was labeled Q3 Operations Restructuring Leadership. The timestamp showed it had taken place 2 days after my performance review. My finger hovered over the file. I knew I probably shouldn't open it. It was a leadership meeting. I wasn't leadership. But something in my gut, that same instinct that had been screaming at me for months, told me I needed to know what was in that file. I clicked play. The video opened on Gerald's face, centered in his home office with his carefully arranged bookshelf in the background. Around him in the Zoom gallery were the faces of our VP of Operations, the HR director, the CFO, and several other department heads I recognized. Let's talk about the systems team, specifically the Daniel situation. My blood went cold. The Daniel situation? "I've been working on this for months," Gerald continued, shuffling papers. "The guy's been here too long. He thinks he's irreplaceable. You know the type, acts like he built this company single-handedly." The VP of Operations nodded slowly. "His metrics are strong, though, highest in the department." Gerald laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Metrics can be manipulated, trust me. I've been slowly redistributing his key accounts to Marcus. By the end of Q4, Daniel won't have anything left to show for himself. His metrics will tank and will have documented cause for termination." "Is that legal?" someone asked. I think it was the HR director. Her face was partially cut off. "It's not illegal to reassign accounts," Gerald said with a shrug. "We're just setting him up to fail. It's called strategic workforce management." I paused the video. My hands were shaking. I'd suspected something was off, but hearing it laid out so clearly, so casually, like I was just a chess piece to be swept off the board, it made me physically ill. But I forced myself to keep watching, and it got worse. The thing is, Gerald said, leaning towards his camera, Daniel's disposable. He's always been. He's a placeholder until someone better comes along. The guy's too stupid to notice he's being phased out. I mean, I gave him a meets expectations review and he just took it, didn't even push back. I had pushed back. He dismissed me. He's been training Marcus on all his systems for months now, Gerald continued, grinning. Thinks it's cross-training. The idiot's literally training his own replacement and thanking me for the opportunity. Laughter rippled through the Zoom gallery. Not everyone, I noticed the HR director stayed silent, her expression troubled, but enough of them found my systematic destruction amusing. I watched the entire 47-minute recording. By the end, I had documented evidence of a deliberate plan to sabotage my performance metrics, Gerald admitting to manipulating my review scores, discussion of terminating me with cause to avoid paying severance, and several comments about my intelligence, work ethic, and character that would make any employment lawyer salivate. Okay, I need to stop here for a second because at this point, I'm sitting in my home office at 11 p.m. shaking with 47 minutes of recorded evidence that my boss has been systematically trying to destroy my career. I need you to tell me, what would you have done? Hit subscribe if you think I had every right to use that recording. Drop a comment if you've ever discovered something this devastating about your own workplace, because what I did next, it changed everything, and not just for me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table until 3 a.m., watching that recording over and over, taking notes, transcribing key quotes. My wife, Alina, found me there when she woke up to use the bathroom. "Danny?" She squinted at me in the dim light. "What are you doing?" I told her everything. She listened in silence, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally a cold determination I'd never seen before. "You're going to destroy him," she said quietly, legally, professionally, completely. "I'm going to try." "No," she took my hand. "You're going to succeed because you have something he doesn't." "What's that?" "Evidence and the patience to use it right." The next morning I called in sick. Then I called an employment lawyer named Patricia Okonkwo. A friend had recommended her after his own workplace discrimination case. I told her what I had, and there was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Can you send me the recording?" she asked. "Yes." "Send it now. I'll clear my afternoon." 4 hours later, Patricia called me back. She was practically giddy. "Daniel," she said, "I've been doing this for 22 years. I have never seen a case this clear-cut. He admitted to everything, on video, with witnesses, and it was recorded on company servers, which means it's admissible. So what do I do?" First, we document everything else, every email, every meeting note, every instance of work being reassigned. We build a timeline. Then we file a complaint with HR, not to get resolution, but to create a paper trail when they inevitably fail to act. And then, she paused, then we give them a chance to do the right thing, and when they don't, we go nuclear. I spent the next 2 weeks compiling evidence, every reassigned project, every modified meeting invitation, every passive-aggressive email from Gerald. I documented dates, times, and witnesses. I created a spreadsheet that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. Then I walked into HR. The HR director's name was Sandra Walsh. She was the same woman I'd seen in that Zoom recording, the one who'd looked uncomfortable. I was counting on that discomfort. "Daniel," she said when I sat down across from her desk, "what can I do for you?" "I need to file a formal complaint against Gerald Hutchins." Her face remains neutral, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. "What's the nature of the complaint?" "Deliberate performance sabotage, workplace harassment, and a coordinated effort to terminate me under false pretenses to avoid paying severance." Sandra's neutral expression cracked slightly. "Those are serious allegations." "Yes, they are." I slid a folder across her desk. "And I have evidence, specifically a 47-minute recording of a leadership meeting where Gerald discusses his plan in detail, a meeting that you attended, Sandra." The color drained from her face. She opened the folder, scanned the first page, a transcript of Gerald's disposable comments, and closed it quickly. "Where did you get this?" The company cloud server, where all meeting recordings are stored. I have administrative access as part of my job responsibilities. I kept my voice steady. I wasn't snooping, I was doing routine maintenance and found a file discussing my employment status. I believe I had a right to review it. Sandra was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. "Cancel my afternoon meetings," she said to whoever answered, "and get Tom Henderson on the line. We have a situation." Tom Henderson was our general counsel, the company's head lawyer. What followed was 3 weeks of interviews, investigations, and increasingly panicked phone calls from people I'd never spoken to before. Gerald was placed on administrative leave within 48 hours of my complaint. Marcus Chen, who I'd assumed was complicit, actually came forward and admitted that Gerald had been pressuring him to take over my role for months. He'd felt uncomfortable about it, but didn't know how to push back. The investigation uncovered even more than I'd found. Gerald had done this before. 2 previous employees in his department had been managed out using similar tactics. One had filed for unemployment citing hostile environment. The other had simply quit, unable to prove what she suspected. But I had proof. 47 minutes of crystal clear cloud-stored proof. 4 weeks after I filed my complaint, I was called into a meeting with Tom Henderson, Sandra Walsh, and our CEO, a woman named Victoria Chen, who I'd only ever seen in company-wide emails. "Daniel," Victoria said, folding her hands on the conference table, "I want to personally apologize for what you've experienced. Gerald Hutchins' behavior was unacceptable, and it represents a failure of leadership at every level." "What happens now?" I asked. "Gerald's employment has been terminated, effective immediately. He's been escorted from the building. Additionally," she glanced at Tom, who nodded, "we'd like to offer you a settlement, full back pay for any bonuses or raises you were denied due to the manipulated performance reviews, a formal correction of your employment record, and a promotion to Director of Systems Operations." I stared at her. "Director?" "It's the role Gerald was preventing you from being considered for. According to our investigation, you were passed over twice based on his recommendations. Those recommendations were fraudulent. This is us making it right." I accepted, not because I forgave them. The company had let Gerald operate unchecked for years, but because I'd earned that position. I'd earned it through 6 years of work, and I wasn't going to let Gerald's sabotage rob me of what was mine. My first act as director was to call a department meeting. I stood at the front of the room, looking at faces that had watched me struggle for the past 8 months without understanding why. "I want to be clear about something," I said. "I know many of you have worked under difficult circumstances. If anyone has experienced anything similar to what I went through, sabotage, harassment, unfair treatment, my door is open. I believe in documentation, transparency, and accountability." After the meeting, 3 people came to my office privately. Each had stories. Each had evidence they'd been too afraid to use. We filed 3 more complaints that month. 2 resulted in terminations. 1 resulted in a complete restructuring of the sales department. And Gerald Hutchins? Last I heard, he was having trouble finding work. Turns out, when your termination involves documented evidence of workplace harassment, word gets around. Companies talk, HR departments share notes. His political smile wasn't saving him anymore. I still have that recording saved. Not on company servers anymore. I made a personal backup. I watch it sometimes when I need to remember what silence costs and what speaking up can achieve. Gerald called me disposable. He called me stupid. He thought I'd never notice I was being phased out. He forgot about the cloud. He forgot about the recording, and he forgot that the disposable guy had administrative access to everything. Some lessons you learn the hard way. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this whole story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever dealt with a boss who underestimated you or a workplace that tried to push you out, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you've got your own workplace nightmare story, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments or send it in for a chance to be featured in an upcoming video, because every story deserves to be told. Until next time, stay documented, stay strong, and never let anyone tell you you're disposable.